Let me ask you something. What if I told you that right now, today, there's a very good chance you are leaving somewhere between $500 and $1,200 on the table every single month? Not because the stock market crashed, not because of inflation, not because of anything the government did to you, but because of one decision, one form, one moment where most people, good, hard-working people, said yes, without knowing the full cost of what they were agreeing to. I'm John Mitchell. Welcome back to The Real Years, where we talk about the real stuff that matters when you're 60 plus and building the life you actually want to live. Today we are talking about Social Security, specifically the single most expensive mistake millions of Americans are making with their benefits right now. And I want to be real with you. This isn't a scare tactic. This is math. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Here's what we're going to cover today. Number 1, the core mistake and exactly how much it costs you, month by month and year by year. Number 2, 3 other silent errors that make the whole thing worse. Number 3, the steps you can take today, whether you've already filed or you haven't filed yet. Stick around to the end because I'm going to give you one action item that takes less than 10 minutes and could literally change your monthly income for the rest of your life. Let's get into it. I want to start with a guy named Bob. Bob is 66 years old. He lives in Columbus, Ohio. He worked 35 years as a facilities manager. Never missed a day. Paid into Social Security his entire career. When he turned 62, he was tired. His knees hurt. He'd had enough. And somebody told him, hey, you can start collecting now. Might as well get something before they change the rules. So Bob filed. 2 years later, sitting at his kitchen table, he ran the numbers for the first time, and he realized he had already left $13,800 behind. Not in the stock market, not in a bad investment. Just by signing that form 4 years too early. Bob is not unusual. Bob is the majority. According to data from the Social Security Administration, 63% of the 50 million retired workers currently receiving benefits are getting a reduced check. Permanently, because they claim before their full retirement age. And here's the thing that gets me. According to a 2024 survey by Nationwide Financial, nearly half of all Social Security recipients, 49%, do not know how to maximize their own benefits. Another 33% don't even know what age they qualify for full benefits. Now, and I want to be very clear here, this is not your fault. Social Security is genuinely one of the most complicated financial systems in the country. The rule book is over 2,700 pages long. Nobody handed you a guide. And the SSA is not exactly calling you up to say, hey, have you thought about waiting? So let's talk about the average benefit. Right now in 2026, the average monthly Social Security check is about $2,071. For couples where both spouses collect, it's over $3,200 a month. That sounds decent, until you realize that most financial planners recommend Social Security cover only about 40 to 50% of your retirement income. The rest has to come from somewhere else. And if your base check is smaller than it should be, everything downstream gets harder. So, what exactly is this mistake? Let me show you. Claiming at 62, the most expensive yes you'll ever say. Here's what you need to understand about how Social Security actually works. The government has assigned every one of us something called a full retirement age, your FRA. That's the age at which you receive 100% of the benefit you earned throughout your entire working career. If you were born in 1960 or later, and that includes a lot of people watching this right now, your full retirement age is 67, not 65, not 66, 67. Now, you can start collecting as early as age 62, and that's where the trap is, because the moment you file before 67, your benefit gets cut, permanently, not temporarily, not until you turn 67, permanently. If you claim at 62 instead of 67, your monthly benefit is reduced by up to 30%. Let me run those numbers for you with a real example. Say your full benefit at age 67 would be $2,200 a month. That's your earned amount. That's what the system says you deserve. Claim at 62, you get about $1,540. You lose $660 every single month for the rest of your life. Run that out 20 years. 20 years times $660 a month. That's $158,000. Gone. For most people, that's not a rounding error. That's life-changing money. But here's what I really want you to hear. And this is the part most people don't know about. The system doesn't just stop rewarding you at 67. It keeps going all the way to 70. For every year you delay claiming past your full retirement age, your benefit grows by 8%. Guaranteed. Every year. Up until age 70. I want you to think about that for a second. Show me any savings account, any CD, any bond right now that gives you a guaranteed 8% return. I'll wait. Right. There isn't one. So with that same $2,200 FRA benefit, if you wait until 70 instead of claiming at 67, your check grows to approximately $2,728 a month. That's an extra $528 every month for life. $6,300 a year just for waiting 3 years. Now I know the first thing some of you are thinking, John, what if I don't live long enough to make it worth it? That is a completely fair question, and I respect it. The break-even point, the age where waiting actually pays off versus claiming early, is typically around age 80 to 82. If you're in reasonably good health, and your family tends to live into their 80s or beyond, delaying almost always wins mathematically, by a lot. And here's something else. Even if you're not sure about your own longevity, delaying protects your spouse. We're going to get to that in a minute, and it's just as important. I also want to address why so many people are claiming early right now, because in 2025, early claims jumped by more than 276,000 over the prior year. That's a big number. People are scared. They're worried about SSA rule changes. They're hearing rumors about benefit cuts. They figure, take the money now before something changes. I understand that fear. But here's the reality. Making a fear-based decision about a permanent monthly income source, that's the most expensive kind of decision you can make. And most of the time, waiting, even just a couple of years, changes everything. All right, so let's say you decided to claim early. Maybe you had a good reason. You needed the income, health issues, whatever. Fair enough. But here's a mistake that hits people who claim early and keep working. It's called the earnings test, and almost nobody explains it properly before you file. Here's how it works. If you're collecting Social Security before your full retirement age, and you're still earning income from a job or consulting, the government sets a limit on how much you can earn. In 2026, that limit is $24,480 a year. Now, for every $2 you earn above that limit, the SSA withholds $1 of your Social Security benefit. Let's say you're 64 years old. You claimed at 62, and you're doing some consulting, bringing in $38,000 a year. That's $13,520 over the limit. The SSA will withhold $6,760 from your benefits that year. Just gone from your checks, without warning. Now, here is the good news part, because there is good news. Those withheld dollars aren't lost forever. Once you reach full retirement age, SSA recalculates your benefit to give you credit for what was withheld. But, and this is the critical but, most people don't know the withholding is happening. They're expecting a full check, they get a smaller one, and they panic. Don't be that person. Know the rule before you file. One more thing. Once you hit full retirement age, the earnings cap completely disappears. Work as much as you want, earn as much as you want. Zero impact on your Social Security. This one is probably where couples leave the most money on the table and the most heartbreak down the road. Here's the rule. Your spouse is eligible to receive up to 50% of your benefit, if that amount is higher than their own earned benefit. That's a huge deal for couples where one person had significantly higher lifetime earnings. But here's where it gets even more critical. Survivor benefits. If you claim early and pass away before your spouse inherits your benefit level, not a higher one, yours, the permanently reduced one you locked in at 62. Think about what that means. If you're the higher earner in a marriage and you claim at 62, you just lowered the income floor for your spouse potentially for decades after you're gone. That's a real consequence. Smart couples coordinate their claiming strategies. Typically, the higher earner delays as long as possible to maximize that base benefit. The lower earner might claim earlier if needed for cash flow. Done right, this can add tens of thousands of dollars to your household income over a lifetime. This is the simplest mistake and the most fixable. Your Social Security benefit is calculated based on your 35 highest earning years. That means if there's a mistake in your earnings record, a year that was credited wrong, a job that wasn't recorded, a W-2 that got lost somewhere, your benefit is lower than it should be. And here's the thing, errors do happen, more often than you'd think. The fix takes about 10 minutes. Go to ssa.gov, create a My Social Security account if you don't have one, and pull up your full earnings history. Check each year. Make sure the number matches what you actually earned. If something's off, you can dispute it, and SSA will correct it before they calculate your benefit. Also, and this matters especially if you're still working, if your current income is higher than some of your earlier years on record, working an additional year or two could actually bump your average and increase your benefit. It's worth checking. There's also one other thing I want to mention real quick, and that's Medicare. A lot of people don't realize this, but once you're collecting Social Security and you're on Medicare, your Part B premium gets automatically deducted from your check. In 2025, that's $185 a month, before you even see the money. So when you're doing the math on what you'll actually take home, factor that in. Okay, I know that was a lot of numbers, so let me bring it all together and tell you exactly what to do. Whether you haven't filed yet, or whether you've already filed and you're sitting there thinking, John, is it too late for me? If you haven't claimed yet, first, know your full retirement age. If you were born in 1960 or later, it's 67. Write that down. Second, go to ssa.gov and run your retirement estimator. It's free. It will show you the estimated benefit at 62, at your FRA, and at 70. See those three numbers. Let them sink in. The difference between the 62 column and the 70 column is your decision. Third, think honestly about your health, your family history, and your other income sources. If you can afford to delay, even 2 or 3 years, the math almost always favors waiting. If you absolutely need the income right now, that's a legitimate reason to claim earlier. Just make that decision with open eyes, not out of fear. And if you're married, sit down with your spouse and talk about coordinating your claims. Who earned more? What's the plan for survivor benefits? This conversation is worth having before you file a single form. If you already claimed early, here's the part I really want you to hear. You may still have options. Number 1. If you claimed within the last 12 months, you have a window. The SSA allows you to withdraw your application, pay back the benefits you received, and refile as if you never claimed. That resets the clock. Yes, you have to pay back what you got, but for some people the math works strongly in their favor. Number 2, even if you're past the 12-month window, once you reach full retirement age, you can voluntarily suspend your benefit. That means you stop collecting, and your benefit earns delayed retirement credits, growing by 8% per year, up to age 70. You can turn your benefits back on at any time. These options won't be right for everyone, but they're real, and most people don't know they exist. And one final thing I want to make clear. Please, before you make any major Social Security decision, talk to a financial advisor or a Social Security specialist. Not for general advice, for your specific situation, your health, your marriage, your other income, your tax picture. A good advisor can run the numbers and show you your personal break-even. The cost of getting it wrong can be $50,000, $100,000 or more over your retirement. A few hours of professional guidance is worth every penny. All right, let me give you the quick recap. Mistake number 1, claiming early without understanding the permanent cost. Up to 30% less per month, forever. Mistake number 2, working while claiming and getting blindsided by the earnings test. Mistake number 3, not coordinating spousal and survivor benefits and accidentally lowering your partner's income for life. Mistake number 4, never checking your earnings record for errors that are lowering your base benefit. Here's your action item for today. Step 1. Go to ssa.gov right now and create your My Social Security account if you don't have one. Pull up your earnings record, check it. Takes 10 minutes. Step 2. Drop a comment below and tell me, how old are you, and have you claimed yet, or are you still deciding? I read every comment. I'll answer as many as I can this week. Next week on The Real Years, we're going to talk about the Medicare trap. 70% of retirees walk into it without realizing it's there, and it's quietly taking money out of the same check we talked about today. You're not going to want to miss that one. You worked your whole life for these benefits. You earned every single dollar. Don't let a decision made in 5 minutes, under pressure, out of fear, without all the facts, quietly undo decades of work. You deserve the full check. Go get it. I'm John Mitchell. This is The Real Years. Take care of yourself out there, and I'll see you next week.